All right, good morning. Hi, I'm Andrew Shotland with LocalSEOGuide, and these are our esteemed panelists. Very excited to be here. Thanks to the Street Fight guys for inviting me. Laura last night accused me of being a cynic, and I think I thought about it, and I said, yeah, if you've been to as many local search conferences as I've been in my lifetime, you would be equally as cynical. But I like to think of myself as an optimistic cynic, if that's such a thing. I'm kind of optimistic about this discussion because this space is going crazy. I think we've all seen it in the last year, and these guys each represent a different piece of it, and I'm kind of interested to hear how they're looking at it. So why don't we do a little introduction? Tell us who you are, what you do all day, why you're here, that kind of thing. Why don't you start with you, Christian?
I'm Christian Ward. I run partnerships for Yext. Yext is a local data cloud. It's the way for small businesses and large enterprises to push all their data and location information out through a network of partners and publishers and different applications. And our whole goal is helping businesses get found. So it's a very interesting space. As you said, it's growing like weeds, but it's also a very common problem that businesses are finding. So our main goal is to work with as many businesses as possible, 200,000 at last clip, to help them get that information out and solve a very basic problem.
My name is Peter Curzon. I work in business development at Yelp, leading revenue and product partnerships. If you're not familiar with Yelp, you're probably going to learn a lot at this conference, but we are a local search and discovery platform, and a particular area that I spent a lot of time recently, where some of you may have seen an announcement over the summer or actually used the product itself, is our transaction platform.
My name is Duane Forrester. I work for Bing. Technically, my day job is to run a program called Webmaster Tools. Very unofficially, most of my job seems to be outreach to businesses. That's largely what I do. I've been an SEO for 15 years. I've run small and large. I still run my own websites, written a couple of books, grew up in a small business. My parents ran themselves. So I spend a lot of time working with startups or attending conferences and helping businesses be more successful. All of the teams within Bing, I kind of cross-pollinate with them, so I work with the local guys, I work with the paid search guys, I work with everybody in that in the stack.
Great, great. So before this panel, I put up a question on Twitter, and I said, what do you think is the biggest challenge of driving online to offline conversion, which I guess is why we're all here. We're trying to do that. And here are some of the responses I got. Tracking conversions, getting local inventory online, point of sale, offer redemption, technology and standards, whatever that means, measurement, catching potential customers while in their buying mode. What no one said to me was making it easy for the consumer. And to me, that seems like the biggest, and for the business, I guess, making it easy for them. I'm curious, Duane, so you guys, you're looking at this at a big scale. How are you making it easy for the consumer for this local discovery thing?
Yeah, it's kind of tough, right? Because we have this, we have all this data, we have all the information, and if you guys can publish it, then we can capture it and showcase it. Along the way, we have technological issues on our side. I mean, you've got engineering, you've got planning, you've got all these things. If you want to move an idea forward, that can take 6 months to a year to finally come to line. And so it seems to a business like it takes a long time to solve a problem, whereas for us, the problem we're trying to solve is not a one-off thing. We're trying to solve it globally if we can. And ultimately, we see the breakdowns all along the way. And the number one thing that we try to stay focused on is ease to consumer. That is the number one point. I mean, we do a lot of work with, and I encourage everyone to do this, with what are called personas. We actually have a poster in my office that shows different people. There's images of them, socioeconomic information, their hobbies, all of this information is listed. These are fictitious individuals that are built from a series of data points. But every single decision I make, I get to look at my wall and say, would Teresa use this product? Would it be easier for Daniel to do this or that? And then as you develop that product, it should hit that target market better. But it's tough. I mean, perfect example, I was standing out back and I was listening to the last speaker, and I only caught the last couple of minutes, so there was this great kind of overview of, hey, wouldn't it be great if I walked up to the box office and I got my ticket, and then I walked in and it showed me where my seat was, and then it gave me an offer for a hot dog and a soda. And I immediately, my mind went, I'd be pissed if that happened. And someone looked at me, what do you mean? And I said, if you offered me the hot dog after I sat down, I'd be pissed that you're wasting my time because now I've got to go back up. And so that kind of displays another layer of problem solving in there, which is I think to the point of sale point that came back on Twitter is not only do we have to give you your ticket and everything else, but it has to be in a logical order, And so we're kind of baby steps with this stuff. I mean, we can only go so far. I actually have on my whiteboard at the office this notion of a point of sale product that Bing would bring to market and give to merchants that would solve some issue. I have no idea what the heck it is. It's still a hairball idea right now. Yeah, I know it's going to be a great thing if it ever comes to fruition. But just as background, my team also came up with a great idea of a water canteen with a built-in USB charger and about 16 gigs of memory storage. Because we thought, who doesn't need a hard-sided water canteen with LED lights on it and whatnot?
That's a Microsoft product.
Yeah, we never made that. We never made that, right? Like the Surface water bottle.
That Bombers
didn't happen.
last hurrah.
No, he hasn't seen this yet. We're going to wait for the new guy and just see if we can slip it in.
Peter, how about you? I know Yelp is, you're pretty much I guess you're kind of like the Apple of local search brands. I guess I like to think of it. You're kind of like the brand everyone knows. What are you guys doing, and specifically you, what are you focused on making this stuff easy for consumers and businesses?
So great question. The second you read your question, the actual answer that came into my head was making it smooth for consumers. So it's funny that you said that, but that idea permeates everything that we do at Yelp. When we're thinking about building great product, particularly for the transaction platform, it needs to be easy for the consumer. So things like, one of the reasons why we like the transaction platform and think it makes so much sense is when you're on a page on Yelp, you're learning about a particular business, and the reason you're on that page is you actually want to transact. You might want to read reviews, view photos, see the hours, maybe an indication of price, but at the end of the day, the reason you're there is because you actually want the service. And so by making it very smooth, very easy for the consumer to tap buy or tap order or tap schedule, consumers really appreciate it, and we've seen great feedback so far.
And so, Christian, you're obviously on the business side of things. I guess you care about consumers, kind of, but really you don't.
Of course we do.
Yeah, I know. At the end of the day, but what are you doing to make things easy for the business?
I think it's very important to see sort of how fast things are growing, and ultimately, since every consumer is the end goal, if you're B2B but ultimately they're B2C, when we look at the space, we realize that making things easier for someone typically means letting them be lazier. It actually means take away burdens from them. That's what most people are akin to a great experience. The value presented is easier for them to do and smoother. We see by 2020, the statistics show 50 billion connected devices. It's absolutely staggering. When you realize how much those connected devices are working to inform businesses and consumers in a two-way dialogue, the ability to improve things is really the ability to make it much easier. And really the way that happens is by allowing us to capture data and to utilize data in these ways through connected devices, and the last speaker obviously on the mobile phone being the biggest purveyor of this, what's starting to happen is we're allowing for people to passively provide data and information. And it was a great discussion about how it's not just data, it's not just geofencing, it's not just where they are at this particular moment. It's all about where they were and where they're going. Humans, fundamentally, we think in time. It's really what separates us from the beasts. We always know what happened and why do we think about something and where are we going. Well, the trick in all of this is you've got to build data systems that gather enough structured information to allow for that sort of dialogue to occur. And you can't really do that just sort of hoping that a consumer is accepted, as you said, and they agree that, oh, you can tell me I can have a hot dog when I sit down. It's a great example. We have to start to figure out how the structured content and the structured data should be the same place, no matter where they look, it should say the same thing. At Yext, it's basically our whole mission. Our mission is working with the small businesses, but having been a small business owner, I really see the opportunity, which is, I'll give you a great example. My daughter started piano lessons, which anybody with kids, there's always this time in their life, they're gonna start piano lessons. And we went online researching pianos, and we ended up at Sam's Club, and they had the inventory online for all the stores. It was awesome. We went through a bunch of them, saw reviews. We need reviews, by the way, on keyboards. So we went through and we're looking at it all, and we said, look, this is great, let's go. We'll go Tuesday night. My wife picks me up Tuesday night from the ferry in Weehawken. We go to Sam's Club,
We get there and we checked everything. We get there, the store was closed 20 minutes ago. So what happened? Well, great, the inventory was up, and that was right, I guess. I wasn't allowed in the store. They didn't have the hours of operation right. You know, one of these things about solving these grand ideas of gathering data and information is you gotta also get the big stuff right. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do at Yext, is help businesses in as many passive or simple ways to sync that data everywhere so that you ultimately have the person, the consumer, having an experience that has almost no burden to them. It's just like Uber. You get in the car, you get out of the car. You're not fumbling around. That really is what the ultimate goal should be. So let's follow up on that concept of structured data. So Duane, so I do SEO, right? And I hear you speak at PubCon and SES and SMX, and let's do that semantic markup, right? Let's get that schema.org stuff, which for those who don't know, it's just some code you put in your website to kind of tell Bing, let's say that, hey, this is an address or a phone number. Is that worth doing, and why?
Oh my God, you just opened the can right there. Okay, do it. Right, now I'll give you guys an example in numbers, all right? Because everybody likes to know why I'm motivated to do this. There you go. That's the glamour shot, right? If we can show in the search results an augmented result, so something, think along the lines of you search for Batman and IMDb has a little flag that comes up and the rating for the movie is showcased in that flag or there's stars next to it. The rest of the search results page, just your usual stack of clickable links and what have you, that result can get up to a 70% click-through rate. 70%. Who wants a 70% click-through rate on their search result? Trust me, the rest of you do too. You just can't be bothered putting your hand up, it's too early, I get it. All right, oh, a late bloomer in the back there, awesome. Welcome. So the reality with this stuff is that markup, that semantic language, and I will be clear about this, we don't care what language you use. We suggest schema.org because it is a protocol agreed on by the search engines. We don't care if you use Open Graph from Facebook. We don't care if you use RDFA. We don't care what language you're using. We care that you are marking your stuff up with a language. We read them all. But what it does is gives you an advantage because we now understand you in greater detail. Okay? Perfect example is the hours of operation at Sam's Club. This is a two-way street. You've got to mark it up so we know what we're looking for, makes it easier. If you do that and your competition doesn't, you look more palatable to us. You appear to be a better result, and if we show that result to our searchers are happy. If, however, your competition looks to be the better result, you're swept aside, the competition goes up. We are like Switzerland, we're kind of neutral that way. We're only interested in a good searcher experience. Now, the example in Weehawken, that business has a responsibility to manage the data. I can't fix your hours of operation. I won't guess at that for you. So you have to be diligent about it. So marking things up, absolutely. And it is the future. Like I've been preaching this for 2 years now. Who here has marked up language on their website? Who's used this stuff right now, right? Okay, so you are the future happening right now. The rest of you are falling behind. Like it is critical that you guys start doing this. Every bit of work that's happening in search, no matter what vertical it's across in the future, is going to be pulling from this data. And you're either one of the front runners or you're one of the pack that's falling behind. It's very straightforward.
So I have to ask, I get asked this question by publishers a lot who are marking up their reviews, all their data on their business profiles. And Matt Cutts of Google came out, I think yesterday, and said, well, we'll choose to show that data in our search results based on the quality of the site, I guess, is kind of what he said. I'm curious, do you guys make that a similar assessment, or you'll just show whoever has the data?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of layering to this, right? And what is important to note is just marking up your stuff doesn't boost you in the rankings. Like, it's not like a quid pro quo where we saw you do the work, therefore you move up 5 spots. There's nothing like that. The reality with this is all of the rest of the factors, and in the Bing algorithm there are close to 1,000, they still come into play with all of this. All things being equal, somebody who's marked up is easier for us to understand. We feel then we have a higher confidence when we show that result to a searcher. And again, we are driven by searcher activity. And if you're marked up, and if we can do more with it, and a searcher engages with you more, that shows us that the searcher is happy. We will continue to show you at the top of the stack. I mean, we're not interested in just cycling randomly through things. We want results that work, and we will show those.
Great. So mark up your sites, in case you didn't get the note there. Peter, let's switch over to, as I was thinking about this panel, the thing I started to really look at is what you guys are doing on your platform, and it really, I guess I hadn't been paying too much of attention to it, and it really became kind of an aha moment for me of how, I don't know, you could choose to say, oh, this is an amazing innovation, or it's incredibly sinister, or something. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with your platform, because to me it seems like it's one of those game-changer-y type things, or at least attempts at one. So we'd like to hear a little more about it.
Yeah, happy to. So the transaction platform is, I mean, there are a number of things. So I guess continuing one of the ideas that we were just talking about with just ease for consumers and making things really smooth, really obvious. One of the things that we do is make it easy for consumers to store their personal information. Things like name, address, phone, their credit card details if they opt in. We obviously follow privacy guidelines, but that makes it really smooth when you're on the go, because I don't know about any of you in the audience, but I, for one, certainly don't want to be thumbing my credit card number in all the time when I'm on the bus or I'm on a taxi and I just want to order food or schedule something. And so it's important to make things like that really easy. And so when we think about the big picture with the transaction platform, we think that there's an opportunity to go after really just about every vertical. And so when you think about local businesses, I mean, it's hard for me to think of actual examples where the business isn't interested in a transaction, a scheduling, or an appointment, ordering, booking. There is an action that we can serve for users that users are actually interested in at the moment of interest, and pursue that path to actually fulfill whatever that intent is. So some of the categories that we've announced that we're going to be adding in the coming months are spas, salons, fitness classes. My mom actually told me she was super amped when she saw that, because she's like, oh yeah, I want to book yoga. And we launched with food delivery, so I don't know if many folks here have tried ordering through Yelp yet. If you haven't, I recommend giving it a go and seeing if you like it. Hopefully you do. Everything we do, like I said earlier, the intent is to be really smooth and a great experience for users.
So the question I had about that, we were talking about earlier, was that it seems like you're just handing off the transaction to some partner to deliver it, I guess, because Yelp doesn't want to do that. But what happens when I get the delivery from the partner and I sort of start to get engaged with the partner and I realize I don't need to go to Yelp anymore to get my delivery? I can actually go to the business's website or this partner. Like, how do you guys stay involved other than Yelp's great?
Yeah, there's a couple ways.
Okay.
So one of the ideas here is, whose service is this? Was one of the initial questions that we chatted about this morning. And it takes both of us. The way that I like to think about it is Yelp is the top end of the conversion funnel. We bring our 108 million monthly uniques to the table who are interested at that moment in transacting. We then work with great partners who then can provide fulfillment services and industry expertise in a particular vertical. Because what we've seen is the needs of a restaurant are different from a dentist, are different from a salon. And when the consumer completes a transaction, they order Thai food, or if we serve a great experience as a joint effort with our partner, consumers are going to keep coming back. One of the reasons why I think there's this very large top end of the funnel is because there's so much data and so much information on Yelp already to help consumers make that decision. If I know I want to order Jake's Steaks, get a cheesesteak, which is probably horrible for me, but I can't help it. I love Jake's Steaks. I can just call them direct. But if I actually want to find a new business, oh, I've ordered there 3 times. I need to find something else that's quick and easy and good. What do people on Yelp think? What's great nearby that I haven't been to before?
So for me, and I think for probably a lot of people in this room, Amazon Prime is this amazing service that kind of it's just as good, if not better, than actually going to the local store to get something. Is there a Yelp Prime in our future? Are we going to start to see, like, be part of the Yelp Club and get some discount on your pizza and that kind of thing?
So with our transaction platform, we announced it over the summer. It's a newer product. We've rolled out one vertical. We're going to be adding more. I think adding in we haven't announced anything like discounting, membership clubs, things like that are all logical and potentially interesting, and at the end of the day, we're going to do whatever is best for our consumers and builds that great experience that way from point A of interest all the way through completing an order to then after receiving the service, the user has that warm fuzzy feeling where it's like, oh man, this was great, I'm going to go back.
Okay, so you're announcing Yelp Prime is what you're saying.
I would say there's a lot that we can learn from great companies like Amazon or Microsoft or Yext, and that we're always looking to make our service better and better.
Got it. Well, politically.
Can I make a request of Yelp?
Please.
Okay, I want this home delivery thing as an app on Xbox, because I use Xbox right now to order pizza, but I go directly to the pizza's website and then use Skype to connect through and complete the call. So if you give me the app, that would be a lot easier for me to filter and search for things. So there you go.
Noted.
Thank you.
So are you really like you're in the middle of like killing some zombie and you're like, I can use a pizza and you just hit a tab and
No, I'm in the middle of taking my dogs outside for a pee.
I got it.
That's what I do. I literally walk in the door, Xbox, pizza. Xbox comes on, my television's on. It does the search for pizza. It knows that I have my favorites. It brings them to the top. I wave my hand and select Sahara Pizza, which is the one that I like. It'll come up. Skype will then connect me to them. I talk to them through Xbox Connect, place my order. They have my credit card information. 40 minutes later, the pizza shows up, and my wife thinks I'm a hero because I ordered dinner. And all during that, I've managed to walk across my living room, have that conversation, order pizza, open the door, the dogs go outside, the dogs come back in, and that's it. So give me an app, because I would rather order Chinese food, but my local Chinese food place doesn't deliver, which is the value you bring because you make the delivery happen. Yeah.
We work with our partners
There
to
you
make
go.
sure the delivery
Exactly.
happens. But yeah,
Exactly.
we'll, noted.
All right,
Thank you.
Let's talk a little about inventory, because that's always been a painful part of local discovery, local marketing. Christian, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys have done in the area of inventory, because it seems like kind of one of these minor innovations that kind of seems major to me at least.
It is. I think actually to both the prior conversations, what's fascinating is we're sort of coming up with a common theme, which is, and this happens a lot, individuals are very hardworking. People are lazy. And the whole goal of all this is the faster we can make things work and get them exactly what they want. Amazon Prime, reviews to delivery, Xbox, superbly wired, I might add. Like, letting all this work is really one of those things where we're helping people because ultimately as an aggregate, they're lazy in a lot of things that they want to do, but we have businesses that want to service them. Inventory is one of those items that has great potential, but also massive pitfalls. When we talk about schema.org and structured content delivery systems, I love this stuff because yes, we should all do it, but nobody does because it's hard. It's not hard for a technology person, but what's hard for a business owner that's working every day and they just got in a series of new inventory items to properly get them in and get them updated. Well, most of them are just getting into QuickBooks if they're lucky because they figured out how to do inventory in QuickBooks. That alone's kind of hard. Then you start getting into the legacy formatted systems in inventory, and it's an even worse mess. Having worked at a lot of different businesses, especially through college, when you realize UPS, the local deli, Circuit City, when there was a Circuit City, every one of these places has a completely proprietary inventory management system, and it's a mess. So trying to get that into a structured data format that then can be uploaded, that's a lot of what we're doing at Yext. At Yext, we built the capability for across our network, our partners, actually, Yelp and Bing, we have built the capabilities of pushing up more content, not just the address, name, address, phone, and that's an important problem to solve as well. But now we're getting into areas of biographies and inventory management systems. And what we've seen is some really smart partners start to leverage our open API suite to be able to push their inventory out of a legacy system by writing simple converters. So those that do have more robust inventory management systems, and you see Square and a lot of these other payment mechanisms getting in this area where once they sell something, it actually creates the inventory tool. Using that to get the photos and the information, we have one partner that went out through our Yext Certified Partner Program. They went out and they deal primarily with car dealerships. And car dealerships, actually pretty fascinating, their inventory management system, if you've ever worked with many of these, is incredibly structured. It's really actually very good. And it's a standard format. It's very akin to a stock trade, that the data associated with it is really very, very structured. So when they go out to these car dealerships, they have people who build their inventory, let's say on their used car lot. Well, now they're taking that inventory, they've managed to sync it to our inventory tools, and now we're pushing out their inventory in real time, which is phenomenal. So if you now search for a used Ford F-150, blue, whatever it is, we're pushing to all the directory sites that we currently are connected to the Yext cloud, we're pushing this stuff in real time. And real time is a big important part to this. If you can't do real time, inventory and everything else is sort of moot. Again, it's very frustrating to go to a place that doesn't have the inventory item you wanted. It's even worse to show up to a place that's out of business. So there's sort of this scale of what I would say is insult to injury. And that insult level changes depending on the goal of the persona, actually. The type of personality, the time they're doing it at, and what you've bothered them with or not bothered them with. But when it comes to inventory, what we see is that as management systems, and a lot of smart little companies are coming up with this, and you'll see them at SES and a lot of these other shows on search, they're creating the translator from these old, terrible legacy systems. They're trying some of the crawling stuff, but unfortunately that can almost be worse because an error in crawling is almost impossible to find until the customer finds it. But they're taking the actual structured data they can, they're converting it, then they're uploading it to Yext. And what that now does is, as you search on all these sites include not necessarily inventory with Yelp, but generally across our network, these people are also rendering this server side. So what's starting to happen is when you render server side, they're getting an enhanced benefit that this listing now has a full inventory stock. And that's exciting because it's not necessarily the answer, but as I was saying earlier, it's very, very hard to get people to actually do things. A hardworking individual here or there, yes. But getting them to structure things, inventory innately has some core structure. Not great, but the ones that do have the structure are already realizing, in addition to advertising my products and uploading them, I can use Yext or sort of any distribution mechanism, but if I can do it in real time, that's when all of it changes.
And about what percent of your clients right now are actually using that?
So it's primarily our bigger partners. Right. So we have our publishing partners, obviously our network, but then we also have partners that go out and work. We call them professional marketers. Our professional marketers are the ones that are going out and instituting. I would say of the large, so let's say we have over 1,000 professional marketers that sell the service. Probably only 100 are really actively utilizing an inventory translator tool. But they account for probably 70% of the updates coming through the platform. We're now getting millions of updates. And Yext, that's a big step for us. With just 200,000 businesses, millions of updates to their business, their hours, but now their inventory systems is really that next step.
And is this data now, so you work with both these guys, is it showing up, is it showing up in Bing, is it like the Bing local results?
I don't believe it shows up in either of these yet. It depends on the partner. So we'll talk about that. No, but generally speaking, I would say server-side rendering, I think, is at 30 to 35 of our current partners, but we're always working with the partners to improve that because a lot of the things that we're talking about here, ultimately, we're not a destination. We depend on your distribution and your ability to have a great search experience and discovery. That's what's going to drive them there. Whatever we can help structure and deliver in real time is where you can really get to the cool, using the M chip. Hey, they're walking this way. Now hit them. They're clearly not at their seat yet, and they are hungry. That's the type of thing that we want to get to. But yeah, it's definitely taking off.
Okay. Duane, I'm kind of curious. A few people asked me this before to pose to you, so I'll pose it. As specific as you can be, I know it's kind of a generic question. What kind of percent of mind share or resource share does local have at Bing? Is it a, man, it's huge, or is it, yeah, well, there's a couple of guys over in the corner when they get budget?
So I'll explain it to you this way. I mentioned this earlier, I run Webmaster Tools. We've got a pretty good profile within our corporate organization. So you guys see Bing and you see Bing, the search engine. I see Bing and I see 5 or 6 discrete business units that all operate vertically on their own within that umbrella of Bing, okay? So you've got Bing Ads, They are physically in a different building. They have different engineers. They have a different mandate. We have Bing Local. We have Bing Maps. We have all of these kinds of groups. And Local has more visibility than I do. To give you an idea of how that works, a year ago, June, I launched the new Webmaster Tools, and it was the highest scoring PR story that Bing had done all year. If you are into PR, there's this thing called the Prime Score, and it's kind of an amalgam number of the number of times you get mentioned and who's picking you up and the authority those locations have and that kind of thing. And it tops out at 200, and I was almost at 190. And so that was massive. And so that gets me a lot of credibility inside the organization. Local has more than me. Local has more mind share. And for good reason. I serve a very small niche, a very important small niche. Those businesses that are involved with Local, I want them involved with my product, but we're talking all the way from mom and pops right up. I mean, my wife collects shoes and handbags. There you go. And so there's a local shop in Ballard in Seattle that allows you to custom make handbags. And what they do is they have new old stock from the 60s and 70s, material, kind of like edging and frill and whatever else. And you go in and you customize the bag to your design. And then they manufacture it, and there you go. And I've talked to that owner. I've got them on Local on Google, Local on Bing. And it's those types of businesses that are really important, you know? And now, guys at Yext, they want to know what that inventory is. They want to know what Laura B has in stock, what's going on. Challenge is that local business person, limited amount of time, she's busy with a sewing machine, she's not on a computer, how do you manage it all? And in her instance, it's fleeting, because my wife's design is, you know, largely proprietary. It comes from her mind and built to her standard. One or two people may see it and say, I want that, but it's not a standardized item that gets produced, so it wouldn't be in an inventory item. It's a very important area for us, right? As you continue to watch technologies progress, and I'm going to throw this out there. If you guys can find, I think they recorded my presentation yesterday at PubCon. If you guys can find the recording of that, I have this great portion at the end where I give an example of how the Ford Motor Company is changing from being an automobile manufacturer to devices and hardware company in 10 years. Their words, not mine. And what it does is it showcases how advertising is going to change in light of these new developments. That's being driven by the generation of millennials coming up, stating what they want and do not want in products. That opens a whole new layer of exposure for things. Think an autonomously driven car with smart technology that knows who you are, that can tell you by measuring the weight of the milk carton in your refrigerator that you need milk, serve you the coupon for Safeway on your way home. Oh, and by the way, I see that it's 4:30. You normally have a latte now. Starbucks on the corner is offering 2-for-1 lattes. Would you like me to stop in for you? Like, that is only 3 to 5 years away from us. And so we're very interested in this local space because every one of those local businesses are becoming data points. And we want that information to feed into these networks.
Great. Okay. We have a couple more minutes. I guess I'll throw it out to you guys. Any questions for our esteemed panelists that you'd like to know?
Or even just this panelist.
Yeah.
You know,
Secret algorithm.
none of us were steamed this morning.
All right, then I'll ask another one. Duane, I'll throw it back to you again. So Google has, whether by design or just because that's the way it happened over the last several years, has pretty much squeezed most directories out of the organic results because it's just showing more and more local businesses. Knowing what you know about Bing's algorithm and its roadmap, would you be investing in local directories that rely on organic traffic?
Yeah, so this is a double-edged sword, right? And I'm not defending Google by any means here, but I understand why they've ended up in that spot. It's the same reason we do. It's the same reason you do not see search results in our search results. That's our job, and one of the points of our job is fewer clicks to task completion. So if I send you to a search result that you then go down and search in and click again, that's a longer path than if I just showed you the result myself. Kind of intuitive. And so with local directories, it becomes a similar scenario. But there's a big difference because those local directories capture a flavor of community that isn't in your normal search result stack. And it's very difficult to replicate because you have community boundaries that matter to people. I love every year I come here for a conference and I stumble across San Gennaro every year. I never plan it. I always just happen to go down to REI at the right time. I walk up around the corner and go, oh, is that street blocked off? And find myself in the middle of one of the best street parties on the planet. And if you actually captured everything that was going on in that area, it has a very distinct flavor that would not come across in normal search results. So we are a big fan of keeping those things in the search results when they make sense. When we see queries of people coming in saying, I'm looking for a series of things in this area, we don't just see individual queries, we see what are called sessions, okay? So every one of us have these when we go online and we search for something. We don't just search once and say, we're completely done with that, walk away from the topic. We'll search on the mobile phone on the way to the office, we'll search at lunchtime on the computer, or if you're like me in the middle of the day, we'll search when we get back home again, but it's all on the same train of thought, right? I need a Halloween costume for my dog. And it's that same session that we're searching across. If we look at that data and it says to us that there's a local component and it's better served with an index result from a local directory, then we will bring that directory forward and say, hey, there's a whole lot more about this that you might not have thought of. Did you want this information as well? And that's our way of posing that question to the searcher, because then they can go to the directory and say, oh, that's related, that's related, that's related. Okay, yeah, I want to go through all that.
Okay, so it's simple, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, simple.
All right, well, we're almost out of time. I think I asked you guys if we could end on one thing that you think is going to happen in the next year around this local search and discovery thing that'll blow my mind, if not everyone else's mind.
So one thing that will definitely happen, but I don't necessarily think it'll blow anyone's mind, but I think every device will have a second button where everybody was so excited when the iPhone came out and had the mute button instead of having to open the apps and like turn it off. This one will be called the invisibility cloak, so that you don't get anything we're talking about right now when you're walking around with your phone. It's gonna happen. It's one of those things that when you think about, and we're gonna have a panel on privacy, it's gonna be hilarious to see how this actually completely transforms how people interact with us. But I think more so
Like an ad blocker, basically.
Absolutely, but you don't know where I am, you don't know where my family is right now. You're gonna have this concept of it's not just about the dialogue through time with someone. And sessions is such a great way to say it because it is this ongoing discussion with them. But people are gonna want the ability easily, and I really think we'll see an outward button for it because it'll be so important. Just stop bugging me right now. But when you're open to something and you turn it on, because the amount of things that are gonna annoy people is about to just go off the charts.
Right.
But a button on every device, I think it's coming, the invisibility cloak.
All right, I like it. Visibility. Okay, Pete?
So I think we're going to see more fundings, like we've already seen in the space for local transactions, particularly companies that are bringing either inventory or scheduling services, really companies that are fulfilling these merchant needs and consumers in the transaction space for local, which is largely still to this day offline, particularly when we look at industries that have been online for a while now, hotels and airlines. I think most of local has a ways to catch up. So more funding. And I think we're going to see deeper integrations all the way into the POS layer because that's where a lot of the inventory data actually resides.
Great. Duane, go for it.
I've got two things, and you're on your own for the medical bills when these blow your mind.
Okay.
Number one, your devices, they're going to start transmitting. They're already transmitting it. A metric crap ton of data, all kinds of stuff. Position, location, speed, time of day, all of this data is going to be starting to get collected and collated. Number two, psychographic information. Most businesses do not look at anything like this today. Nielsen offers it, and it will change the way you run your business. It's the difference between following someone and hoping they repeat their pattern and knowing where they're going to go next and positioning yourself in front of them. So the use of that data is going to wholesale change how we perform online marketing, whether it's local or on the net as a whole.
Digital ESP, basically.
Yeah, literally, yes.
All right. I've just bought that domain name. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, panelists. We're out of time. Where's our moderator or our hostess? Somewhere? Come on over.